but they're not going to be my go-to people for like food or science or anything like that. So
Okay.
um, yeah, so I did some
لكل
searching and
جعلناه
I
نبيا
found
ما
like
ترك
this
الوالدان
career
والأقربون
path you could go
والذين
down like for
اقتدينا
food
لهم
science. I was like, oh,
فاتبعوهم
okay, I could be a food
فأتوهم
scientist and
نصيبهم
go down
إن
that
الله
path.
كان على كل شيء
But then
شهيدا.
uh,
الرجال
I
قوامون
had
على النساء
one
بما
of my
فضل
uncles
الله
who
بعضهم على بعض
is
وبما أنفقوا من
happened
أموالهم
to be a chemical
فالصالحات
engineer, and he's
قانتات حافظات
a little bit
للغيب بما حفظ
biased,
الله
was like, hey,
واللاتي
you might
يخافون
want to look into
تخافون
chemical
نشوزهن
engineering
فعظوهن
because,
واهجروهن في
let's say the whole
المضاجع
food thing doesn't work
واضربوهن
out,
فإن
like you're not
أطعنكم فلا
stuck doing just
تبتغوا
food
عليهن
science.
سبيلا
So,
إن
Who would do
الله كان
food?
yeah,
عليا
like,
كبيرا وإن خفتم
and
شقاقا
so,
بينهم فبعثوا
um,
حكما من
he
أهله
worked on
وحكما
glue or
من
whatever,
أهلها
but
إن يريد
he had
إصلاحا
some
يوفق
perspective.
الله بينهما
So,
إن الله كان
I
عليما خبيرا
he kind
واعبدوا
of
الله
convinced me,
ولا
okay, let me
تشركوا به
apply to
شيئا
some chemical engineering
وبالوالدين إحسانا
programs.
وبذي القربى
And
واليتامى
then
والمساكين والجار ذي
another
القربى
good
والجار
thing,
الجنوب والجار
LinkedIn is
الجنوب
very powerful.
والصاحب
These different sites,
والصاحب
you can
بالجنب
go on
وابن
there and like,
السبيل
I look
وما
up,
ملكت
okay, food
أيمانكم
scientists,
إن
people
الله
work
لا
in food
يحب
industry,
من كان
like what
مختالا
degrees
فخورا
did they
إن
get? And there
الذين
turned out to
يبخلون
be a lot
يأمرون
of food
الناس
scientists,
بالبخل
but there were
ويكتمون ما
also,
آتاهم الله
different
من فضله
engineers. So
وأعتدنا للكافرين
physicists,
عذابا
biologists, all that. So I was like, okay,
مهينا.
this is somewhat achievable. Someone out there got the same degree as me, and they ended up in the role that I was kind of seeking. And on on a lot of college websites, they'll have like statistics of the graduates and what fields they go in. And you can see on some engineering sites, there might be a, albeit small, but it'll be like food or agriculture or something. So yeah, so went to Georgia Tech. Uh, and went my 4 years there. Georgia Tech, I will say, what I didn't do good research on, I mean, I was in state, which is lovely, but like hardly any food science, they don't have food science major. No one there is looking at food science. Everyone wants to go into oil and gas because they pay the biggest check, basically. Which, teach their own. So I had to do some hunting at the career fair and found the one sort of major food company that went to the career fair was General Mills. Um, so uh, yeah, hunted them down. I was like, hey, I want to work there. I'm locked on this food thing, so I'm like, I'm gonna talk to them. Well, this was my freshman year. Turned out they didn't hire food, or they didn't hire first years for internships. And as much as determined as I was, no amount of bugging them would change that really. But I was like, okay, what can I pivot to? So you look at the other, you talk to them, and they say, oh, look, try and get some experience somewhere else in consumer packaged goods. So I said, okay, and so I went to the next booth, P&G. So they make like Bounty paper towels and a whole range of things, but they're a similar type company where you make consumer packaged goods. So something tangential to where I wanted to go. So I ended up bugging them enough, got an internship at P&G, and uh, you know, after my freshman year. So it was great. I worked on shampoo. It was during COVID, so it wasn't like it was a little bit interesting experience, but I learned a lot. And then I was like, okay, my eyes are set on General Mills now. I got to get this next step. So then I went to General Mills, had that internship in the bag. I had leadership experience already. I kept a good GPA, and it was hard for them to say no at that point because I had done the things that they had said for me to do the year prior. So got the internship. I worked in a manufacturing location they have in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they make cereal, um, and did food safety and quality there. Uh, it was a fantastic experience getting like real manufacturing experience. I had this idea. I applied to be an R&D originally, but they didn't have a position for me at that point, and they said, "Hey, try out this FS food safety quality. You can always move." And I was, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it turned out to be like an amazing first opportunity that really helped me years after, just getting that first like experience. How is this food being made? I made it vocal to them. I wanted to go back into R&D. Did that for my next experience. So did research and development on Pillsbury. So like the canned Pillsbury dough. Had a great experience. So then I went back there full time. I had thoughts of like, oh, do I want to get a PhD? I had a lot of conversations in that. I can talk a little bit more if y'all are interested, but ended up going back full time for General Mills after I graduated because I was like, this is really what I want to do. Like I get to work with food every day, make food, kind of a little bit of that chef, thing that I wanted as a kid, but I got to, use my science and engineering brain there. So, I, so yeah, started full time as a, they have a couple different segments. They in R&D they have product, processing, and packaging. And so I started on that product side because I was like, I really want to work with food. And that's like the closest you can get there. And so 2 months in, I was working hard. They had the company, as big companies do, they like to, change stuff up at a moment's notice. And they had this big, reorg. And all of a sudden my manager's asking me, hey, can you switch to, someone had to move. Can you switch to a processing role in pizza? And so I was like, dang, I just got the role that I really wanted. I had, done those internships, found the perfect role in the company that I wanted, and it was right there. And so I was kind of at this crossroads. Like my manager was very nice to even offer me and not just like move me. He's like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? There's a lot of project potential here. And I knew, coming from an engineering background, they kind of targeted me for this rather than, some of the other food scientists. And I said yes. A couple weeks later, I started traveling and working on this big line startup. And it ended up being a very big project for General Mills. And I got a ton of good experience in a manufacturing plant, doing process engineering. And yeah, I kept doing that. Still worked a ton on pizza, and yeah, to this day. So yeah, so right now I'm in process. Like my role is a process engineer as an art, like in research and development.
Do we know the product you work on?
Yeah, so I can't really say.
Oh.
So we do a lot of.
Oh, so is it in market yet, or are you just,
It is. So
why can't you?
General Mills has a segment on. So we have. I work in food service. So you may know General Mills for like, okay, Cheerios,
yeah.
that kind of thing, Pillsbury. But they have a whole another segment in food service. And this is like us making food
For the people
for our different customers. So a big chain might say, hey, we need, we need pizza to serve on our menu, and we'll make it for them. And we're not really supposed to disclose that, but we also make a lot of, and I love to tell secrets, so it's paying me.
Oh,
But
well, Peter.
I know,
So
but
the restaurant that you are supplying?
there are a lot of restaurants, so yeah.
Oh, it's a chain of
Yeah,
restaurants?
yeah. So it's a
Rhyme
large.
with a certain word?
Large chains will, they can't make everything themselves, so, we'll help with that. So
Neat.
it's really cool. You get to, talk about networking. You work like, I wouldn't think as an engineer, I'd be working with like sales and marketing and all these different cross-functional areas in a company. But my role, at least, I'm constantly on calls with the salespeople who are talking to these big like chain restaurants and saying, hey, we need this and this. They come to us and say, okay, how do we make that happen? And so that's my job, saying like, okay, I gotta make this pizza at, larger scale, but they want this quality attribute. So I'll work with my product person, they might help come up with the formula, but I'm gonna come up with how do you make it on a manufacturing line. So that's kind of my job. Worked on a couple line startups now, so like a lot traveling to manufacturing plants. As an engineer, you might have to travel a lot, and while that sounds a lot of fun, which it can be, week after week, it can be draining, but you
Wait a
learn
second,
so much.
You're repeating your uncle's path.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. So I mean, you talk to certain engineers and they understand you're on planes, you're going traveling because you're probably not going to work on something that's being made just down the street. If the engineers you want big scale and you're you need a lot of space for that, so it's a lot of times in rural areas. So yeah, so it's
Okay, yeah.
I guess we could open up to questions now about any of that. Sorry, that was a word
No, that's
Uh,
that's good background.
thing, but yeah.
So, like you tell us that's a good travel hub and everything, but
Mhm.
how would you say, which one would you like more, product or process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm like still trying to figure that out. So product is I kind of wanted to do product because I have a chemical engineering background and I work with a ton of food scientists. And coming in, I was like, okay, I'm really strong on like the engineering piece. I really like that stuff, and I find that I'm really good at it. But I was like, okay, where's my kind of weakness? I like working with food a lot, so that role is very fun on the day-to-day basis. But I think I'm a little weaker in that area. So I was thinking, early on, you have a lot of flexibility. I would say more than later to try out different things. So I was like, I would like to get some early experience doing the product R&D, learning what the ingredients do, what percentages you put them in and all that stuff, so that later when I do go back into a process engineering role, I've got experience on the thing that maybe I was weaker in. So if I stay and process my old time, I'll never get that extra experience that can really help me. So I like them both, uh, but yeah, I'm still figuring it out, and I'm trying to learn everything to make me really like a holistic, good engineer.
Also, when you ask Peter a question, can you introduce yourself so he'll know your name?
Hari.
Is that Maury?
I'm Hari.
Hari? Oh, I'm Peter. Hi, of course. Yes,
I'm Aaron.
Aaron? Yes.
When you talk about R&D,
Mhm.
does General Mills have like R&D like labs? And if so, like what do you guys
Yeah.
do in there? Like do you guys
What
I
is
know you guys are making like food for these restaurants.
Mhm.
Do you ever kind of like go off a limb and like make something new?
Yeah, it's a great question because that as I was like applying, I had no idea, and I was like, shouldn't like chefs be making the food and this kind of thing? So it depends what product you're working on because we also have we make dog food and pet food, so
Not the same.
not the same environment, but I'll say for like pizza, our main like benchtop lab is like a huge kitchen with tons of different ovens. So we work with a lot of different customers and chain restaurants. So we got like all the different types of ovens they use. We got all this benchtop space for you to really make things. But we also so this is kind of on the smaller scale. So a lot of product people work in there. On a small scale, what's the formula like? Try a bunch of different variables. Then they might say, okay, I've locked in on this formula. Now we have a pilot plant. That's somewhere in the middle between that benchtop scale and the full manufacturing plant. And actually, in our facility, we have these, somewhat large pilot plants that are smaller versions of our manufacturing lines. So you take that formula, you go test it out there, and see how does it run on the equipment. And usually, the first time it might run like you might make a pizza one at a time at your home and it works out, you get a little wrinkling there. But try making that, 500 of them, every minute. Like stuff is now that stickiness of the dough is amplified. It's you have to deal with 500 pieces being sticky every minute. So that's where the process side comes in. You might have a little bit more of that engineering knowledge. What's making it sticky? How do you reduce the stickiness? What is the equipment we have that you could use? Maybe you mix it a totally different way than you did on the bench top, but now you got to figure out, you mixed it for 300 seconds. Then what's the work input on that with the certain dough hook, and how do you make that that same work input in a different style large mixer. So it's kind of like the engineer's playground versus like the maybe science playground of the benchtop lab. But I love the product like wanting to be a chef. I love to get my hands dirty, put on a smock and make some pizzas, throw it in the oven, top it and all that. So as a and I found I can really shape, I want to do both. So give me a project where I can help someone come up with a formula and then also take that and make it on a larger scale. And then they'll also want you to take it from that pilot plant and make it a manufacturing plant. So yeah, really great question.
What are the background of the people in your team?
Yeah, so my team's a little unique. Like, so I'm on a team of process, like a process pillar is what they call it. So it's a lot of engineering people.
What kind of engineering?
It's mainly chemical engineering. Yeah, mainly chemical engineering on my team for process engineering. General Mills likes to hire those for that, but not saying they can do other ones. But but I work very closely with a team that is full of product people, so that they've got biology degrees, chemistry degrees, microbiology, food science, and all that. Now, when I'm doing these line startups, which is I've spent a lot of work in, then I start working with corporate engineers. The corporate engineers, yeah, there's like this is to the point. There's these companies, you meet new people all the time.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so they have corporate engineers that are kind of, it's like this crew of people that they're not usually young like me. They've had a lot of experience. Those are mechanical engineers, controls engineers, chemical engineers as well, all sorts of engineers. But they'll be tasked, like they're kind of this central resource where, hey, we have a huge project over here. You need to be able to go and help the pizza team. Okay, that project's done. Now you need to be you're over on Pillsbury now. You're over on this. So some people have their specialties, but they have to be very flexible for a wide range of for projects. And yeah, so that's like one of the career paths you can kind of go down if you like being a central resource, doing a wide range of problem solving.
They're like an elite team of engineers.
Yeah. And I go to travel the plant. Usually it'll be like me as the process R&D. I got my product R&D counterpart. There'll be usually one controls engineer, so they work on the coding of the equipment. There'll be a corporate process engineer that'll kind of I care more about how does the manufacturing lead to a final end product that the customer is going to enjoy. They're more like, okay, this machine is broken on the process, like how can you fix it, sort of thing. And then you get supply chain is another big role, and those are engineers. A lot of system engineers go into supply chain, and those are much more broad overview of like, okay, how do we get these different tasks done all together? Like who's tasked for this? Are we staying on schedule? Are we staying on budget? But they also have to have that like manufacturing knowledge to, be able to allocate these tasks. So, there's plant managers, there's food safety and quality, there's maintenance workers, there's you got operations. There's just so many different roles, and heck, I haven't seen one yet where an engineer couldn't do that, and that's what I think is really cool in engineering. And I feel like I could see all that. I could go in my room's team and say like, I think that would be a cool job, and I don't see any barriers, at least at General Mills, where they wouldn't let me try that out. So.
Also, when you use the term corporate engineer,
Yeah.
is that GM word for like high-ranking engineer?
I don't know. No, like.
Like how they have like principal engineer and
Yeah,
staff
so
engineers?
they've got like their principal and senior and all this stuff, but corporate engineer is that specific group that is that kind of task force that they get allocated to all these different projects. Like I do you know Chad Kubat by chance? Okay, he did TLE stuff, but he was a U of M chemical engineering grad. He's like like on the pizza team. There's two process engineers. It's me and it's him, and he's 30 years experience. He's a principal engineer. So he's had a lot of different experience around the company, but he's not a corporate engineer who does a lot of things. He's very focused on dough technology. Yeah. So all the way in the back for.
Hi, I'm Yulita, and I was wondering, you said you travel a lot.
Mhm.
What exactly happens? Like, what do you research when you travel?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I just got back from a trip yesterday. So, this is a new line startup. So making pizza, for a company. And,
Come on,
and-
Peter.
and, I was wondering, they sell pizza if that helps.
Oh, does it sound like Kamino?
Yeah, no, but yes, no, they're, so it depends. I mean, there's the one I just got back from, like line startup stuff. It's like day to day, troubleshooting. So it could be a number of different things. They have questions for us. So the manufacturing plants, they're making product every day, super high rate. They're like a machine. They need to get product out of the door. They've got their quality team that
But this is a General Mills facility?
this one, we have a lot of facilities, but we also work with external facilities to help make our product. So this one happened to be an external facility.
That's owned by the Jamino Pizza Company.
No, it'll be owned. There's a lot of, I'm trying not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but it's like owned by a
A
different,
third
a
entity.
third party that helps make product for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll, I'm trying to think. So, yeah, they've got their quality team that, is making sure it's good quality product, but they might need help in actually, like if they have a quality issue, they need our help to figure out how to fix that. So we're really knowledgeable on what the end product needs to look like, taste like, the texture, the smell, and all that. And engineering like can have good guess at different levers to pull for that. So if the texture is too dense, like did you let it rise long enough? What's the temperature of the room? Like, what are the densities at all the different stages of the process? So we're equipped with like tools to measure those things, stick data in the graph. So yeah, we're on the plant floor measuring things, troubleshooting, wide range of problems. So it'll be like a full day at the plant, but I love it because it flies by so fast and it beats being at a desk all day, yeah. But there's other times where I might be working on a new product, and they need a first run at it at a plant location. And turns out the plants are all over the country. For example, the one in Albuquerque. So like I might have to fly to Albuquerque to be there to see this product I developed for first time run down the line. They've never worked on that before, so they need my expertise to troubleshoot.
So you do both like the first instance, like to start the run, and then there are some times when they've done the run for a while and they've run into some weirdness and they can't figure out why, and so they call General Mills and then they bring you guys in to
Yeah,
figure out what's going on.
and that's more that second thing is like I'm working on the line startup, so there's just constant problems. So that's why you kind of have to be there to help, like on no one's notice. If they've been running the product for decades, usually it could be a phone call or a Zoom call. But yes, a lot of times it's like new changes. Hey, we need it. I mean, it could be we need a new type of flour, or because this other flour
Right now.
provider ran out. You need flour is not the same from one place to another, so you need to be there. Hey, so this is what we're working with. What other levers can we pull to get that same final product?
Hi, my name's Zach.
Mhm.
I'm curious if you ever were working on like a line startup and then like the customer just like changed their mind for like what they wanted and how you kind of
Yeah.
shifted.
You're an expert already because that happens all the time because you as an engineer you might be very data driven like you want numbers to explain things but you might be working with a customer. The customer could come from any background. They could just be the son of the original owner and they don't know a thing about like science or anything. So they'll say, I need it more crispy. You're like, okay, come back, here's the product, more crispy. No, I actually want it softer. And you play this game of back and forth. So, and of course you have, it's not just you, you've got like salespeople working with you, you've got managers and all that. But what you have to do, it's really like interesting. There's just so many people like with all these different roles that can help, but you have to work with them and influence them saying, okay, we're gonna take where we're at right now to start. We've got these different resources in General Mills who are sensory experts, and they're going to map this, these textures like on quantitatively, and you have to do that in a way you're not like trying to force them somewhere. There's this whole strategy of like how do you influence people, and there's this whole business side that that's what the business teams, they know what to do with that stuff. And so you try and get them to see your products quantitatively so that you can better solve those problems as an engineer. So that's like a really tricky part of the job because you think, oh, I'm just, in the homework assignment, it's like, here's the answer, to the question. But in real life, you're working with humans that have opinions and moving targets. So yeah, it's a real problem. I guess I saw your.
Hi, my name is Omar. You mentioned like several times as you've been talking that you work on like the pizza team. When you like kind of get separated into teams, are you working on like a product and then when someone wants like pizza from General Mills, you just happen to be the one working on it? Or are you working like this company wants me to make pizza, so I'm working on making pizza, and if they wanted something else, I'd be working on something else for them?
Yeah. So at least how General Mills works, we're broken up into what we call operating units. So, we make so many different things. It's just nice to have that organization. So it, at least on the research side, we're broken up by kind of like technology. So you're like, here's cereal. Like everyone under that cereal side is going to be well versed in how to make cereal. I'm under food service, and our food service products happen to be a lot of like dough products. So everyone under that knows a lot of dough. So I'm only working on uh, food service pizza products, and just yeah, as the org chart kind of goes down,
Because
and
your process is different than the pizza product that would be sold to consumers.
yeah, so like we also make Totino's pizza rolls, college staple, and that's you could think a totally different product, but there's dough in both of
Yeah,
those.
yeah.
So they're like while I work just on that, just down the hall is the people who work on Totino's, and a lot of times they've solved the problem before, so I can always talk to them and see their experience. And we have got big databases of all the things, so you can
Is-
also just
is-
look stuff up. But yes, just
Is General Mills organized in like the doughy part and then like the corporate doughy part and then the consumer doughy parts?
I'd say there's like the business side, and they've got their organization, and usually it coincides with how the technical
So it's
teams are
set.
split up, and you have your partners. Like I work with a salesperson who only works on pizza, and I work with a business person, finance person only on pizza. Just because we have so many different things, it really helps to organize. But General Mills, the cool thing about it is like if I wanted to work on other things, I could always say, hey, I've been in pizza a while, kind of got the lay of the land. Can I try fruit roll-ups? And it's a transition. You got to commit to it, but they've got those other products. You can get different experiences, and then you're learning whole new technologies again. You got whole new learning curves. But as someone who like wants to learn new things all the time, that's really nice to have. Yeah. So there's just so many engineers that they've got the other things covered right now.
So what's the projected ladder promotion
Mhm.
for you as a R&D engineer?
Yeah. So you can go into different paths. The way I understand it is you can General Mills likes generalists generally. Um, they they want someone because these big companies nowadays they have to maintain flexibility because people's tastes are changing all the time. Like people are stopping eating some things and new trends and stuff. So they're buying and selling new companies all the time. So like they bought the pet food for the first time and that was like a whole big thing. So they want people who are able to like be a flexible engineer and they might have worked on dough before and this and that, but they could easily, if we buy a soup business, or we already have one, but another soup business, like you could easily flex into that. So the way they encourage that is to get promoted. They usually like you to go into different segments. Now you can go specific into a role, but it might be a little bit slower and you just have to voice that because they've got like technology teams. So you can go down a technology route and be more deep in a role, but they really like to encourage, hey, you can go learn how to be a process engineer in Cheerios and then, fruit roll-ups and you'll be a better engineer at the end of the day. And then you start being, the principal, that sort of thing. So you can go down that route for R&D. You could go down the corporate engineering route. You start to learn a lot of things. And now I want to be a generalist and go help with plants. So the corporate engineering role is very, sought after, a very respected role. You could go down the manager route. So you might find that a lot of engineers go down manager route. You might find that you like to work with people and allocate projects and help problem solve and that sort of thing. So you could go down there. Then you go all the way up the chain to like chief technical officer, and then you're in the C-suite at that point, and there's a whole thing. So that you could find other roles too, but those are kind of they've got stepping stones.
Yeah, I'm Cody, and you mentioned all these departments and like different like roles and categories. I'd say like 5 years in the future, where do you want to be?
Yeah, I'm figuring out that now a little bit because we've got these like yearly like your manager has you have a conversation with the manager like where do you want to be. Um, I I I've had like intense travel for the past couple of years. So I've voiced to my manager like, hey, I want to do process role, but maybe a little bit more local. And they have stuff for that, but you just gotta let them know because they'll just keep sending me like, hey, you're good at this, like keep doing it. So I'd like to work like in the pilot plant and help scale up and make like our innovation projects and our like basically any projects faster in the development part because right now we're I see opportunity where we could make things in the lab quicker and then get to that pilot plant scale faster, but they need someone to help like, okay, what equipment do we need, how do we set this up. So I kind of want to help our pilot plant scale out, so just voicing that. And then at some point I want to go into a different operating unit. So right now I'm in the food service, but they General Mills at its core is like a retail business. So I do want to go into the retail business at some point and see how they do it, because I've heard it's very different, and I think that would be really good for me to learn. Yes, you.
Hi, I was wondering how you were able to convert from an internship to a full-time role, or any tips you have for getting a return offer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'd say I tried, I don't know if this is bad advice, but like I tried not to think about the full-time role offer as much during my internship because I'm like, if I'm like working, if I'm really invested in my work and like I like it and I enjoy it, I would hope that the company sees my value and my experience and they would give me that return offer. Like I don't want to be doing too many extra things than I would expect to do on my work job because if I get accepted to come back as work, I don't want to be doing that like artificial self the rest of my time. So I was like, I'm gonna just work hard on my projects, figure out if this is really what I want to do, because it's kind of like a two-way interview. Like, is this the job I want for the next couple of years? And they're seeing if do they want to hire me. So that's on them. But I really went into like, okay, are these projects something I like? Meeting other people around, like, are there jobs around that I could see me doing in a while? And I think at General Mills, they saw my like interest in the company by doing that. And my like excitement for the work. And then it was, of course we see you would be someone who would stick around for a while and gave me the return offer. So I would say like really figure out if this is what I want, get connected to a lot of people. The network's really important. And yeah, I mean, there's no secret sauce answer, but I think like college is such a great time. These internships are such a great time to try out new things. That yeah, you just want to enjoy it and really appreciate it. And at the end of the day, if they reject you, I've heard people, they don't get the return offer, and then they might come to like 5 years down the line and come back and like they had a great experience somewhere else. So there's always other opportunities to come back. They hire externally all the time. I have the house side, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Yes, you.
Hi, my name is Meg. So I'm a nutrition major right now. I'm not in engineering.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, I know. That's why you're here, I think, but because of me.
Okay.
But so my question for you is, are you happy with your decision to go into the food industry? Because I know that's not tech or like a typical route for somebody in chemical engineering.
Yeah.
And then also, like, do you think that's something as a nutrition degree person, like, do you think that's something I could potentially do in the future? Like,
Yeah.
specific roles or anything you would recommend?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I always think about this. So, yeah, short answer, yes, I'm happy I went in there. It's it was my dream job, and it's lived up to the hype. Like I take a step back sometimes, on my drive home and stuff. I'm like, I'm making pizza and I'm getting paid like a really good salary for it, and it's really fun. Now it's work at the end of the day. I'd rather be retired at 30 or whatever, but it's it I think any job has its challenges, and you're gonna hate parts of it and love parts of it, but I'm really I do find excitement every time I go to work. Like when you start like being excited for your projects and like being happy with the people you're working around, like that's all I can really ask for. And I see there's like progression, and I see and I'm being challenged like mentally every day, and I feel that in my job. And you know, I also see the potential, like if I start not liking things, I can move internally, but also there's this world you can change jobs at a snap of a finger, which is I think kind of funny. Like some people don't think you're locked in, but I could go apply for a professor job at the U of M tomorrow. So there's like being an adult, you have this so much flexibility. You're not like locking in on a major kind of feels restrictive. I mean, I know you can move, but like really when you're a job, you can really move around. So, but yes, I love my job. Nutrition. We have like nutrition people in the company who are keeping up with like the latest trends, like the RFK Jr. stuff. We've got to be like sticking to that whatever policy is going to come out tomorrow. We've got to stick with the newest trends now. Protein was big, now it's fiber. Like they have to be working on that in the background. So if you like nutrition, these big companies, they're working on it all the time.
Are there nutrition people in the R&D team?
No, not on R&D, but well, yeah, we have a central thing called Nutrition Technology and Science, and they're like a central resource that helps a lot of people on nutrition stuff. But there's also, this is a little specialist, but like for our pet stuff, there's like pet nutrition people that are like very specific to that. But also, I think you could do R&D with your nutrition background if that's something you wanted to do, because there's a lot of crossover. Yes.
I'm Tom. You talked a lot about like, you know, moving to all these different sites, as well as like the option for internal movement within like the position and whatnot. I was just wondering like, how much of your job is seeing like familiar faces and forming like long-standing connections versus like, I don't know, being at a like different site every week kind of seems like you have to, it's more like making connections and like first introductions. And which way would you rather prefer it?
Yeah. So I see people like older than me all the time saying, "Hey, like Tony, you know, like there's like it's food, especially like a small world. So there's all like your connections come around again all the time, and I make an effort like anytime I walk into a new plant or like any new room and I don't know someone, I'm introducing myself automatically. Not just like because or just to be nice, like I'm gonna see that person again at some point. It helps to know their name, it helps to know their role, because you might have a question and you now can know who that person who to reach out for. And if you didn't ask for that, it's like coming from a stranger rather than like, oh yeah, I remember you. So I definitely, I think like introducing yourself, being friendly, getting to know the person first before you ask them to do things work related is super helpful. I actually like I went when I was traveling, I actually go to this like same plant for continuous weeks because you're like starting up this one line. So it's even more important there because you're gonna be stuck with these people for weeks on end. So if they don't like you, yeah, good luck trying to get stuff done. So yeah, I think no matter what, it's so important to get to know people. Yeah, especially like you're not just working with like engineering degree people. The operators, like line operators, they're doing the real work. They're like operating the equipment, you know, packaging stuff up. They, you know, they might be getting paid minimum wage. They're a totally different type of person to talk to than the plant manager or, you know, someone corporate engineer. And you have to be good at talking to those people. You gotta be talking to the salary like workers, the wage workers, the business people. So the more you introduce yourself and talk to people and talk to different type of people, the better you'll get at it. And it's just so important. Like, yeah, I can't state that enough. Yeah, so good question. I hope I answered it.
So you
Hari, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You just touched on PhD and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you ever go back to school to do a PhD, and like how much growth will you see if you have obtained like a doctorate or a PhD?
Yeah.
Are there PhDs in your team?
There, yes. So on my pizza team, there's a few PhDs in food science in particular. Rare to find a PhD engineer in General Mills at all. At the moment, I'm not thinking about going back to school. For a time when I was in school, I was like pretty adamant I wanted to do a PhD. But as my internships went on, I started looking at like what I was doing and I'm like, this is actually what I really want to do. Why spend 4, 5, 6 years training to potentially get a job I like less when this is like the end goal? And I talked to a lot of people who had PhDs and they're like, yeah, no, I did this PhD to get to the position. You're already here, like you don't need to do that. And they encourage like you have to think of it like let's say I'm just say 5 years. Is 5 years working as a PhD student going to get me farther in my career than working 5 years in like the industry? And I'm not saying there's one right answer, but like in my case, in the food industry, I saw like the industry experience, it would take me farther. So it depends case by case. Nice thing you said, you can always go back. I've also heard a lot of people who think they're gonna go back actually never do, because it's hard to go from getting paid like a 6-figure salary, now you're getting paid, you know, 20K a year. So it's easier said than done, not that people don't do it, but, you know, think about those things like, where's my time being spent? You know, do I have the ability to, you know, am I gonna be working weekends, low wage, all that stuff. So just think of it a full picture, but you always got time.
Other questions?
I'm kind of interested in when your manager asked you to switch roles in just 2 months in, how
Yeah.
did you evaluate whether to say yes?
Yeah, it's like tricky, and to make matters worse, she like wanted to know by in I forget what it was, 1 or 2 weeks, and so it didn't give me a lot of time. Um, but luckily, I had people I knew from like my previous internships, some mentors and stuff that I could quickly I just message them and say, hey, I've got this tricky situation. Mind if I talk to you about it? So definitely like use the resources. I sat down with people, and at the end of the day, like the company was asking me to do this thing. There's obviously like a business need for this. So it looked good for me that I'm, helping the business with where I'm putting my work. And also it's like, um, I don't know, it's like it's an opportunity to do something, you know, new and different. And the worst case is I could hate it, and now I've got two experiences to make another decision on rather than just having the one. So I don't know. For me, I'm somewhat of a risk taker, so I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. For someone else, they could have said no, but I think like there's either way, I would have ended up fine. So it takes some of the pressure off. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be in the similar role either way. Um, and yeah, I just weigh the pros and cons. It's kind of tricky, but yeah, weigh the pros and cons. Utilize your resources, and at the end of the day, both decisions you go down, probably you'll be fine.
I have a question.
Sorry,
No, yeah.
I was just gonna ask, if you were talking to someone who maybe doesn't have like an interest in food or doesn't have like an engineering degree and they
Mhm.
wanted to do research and development, how would you is there any like advice that you would give or just like general tips to maybe get into it?
Yeah, I always think like I helped recruit at Georgia Tech last fall, and so I was going through a ton of resumes, and it's like if you were a resume reviewer for this position you want, like what would you want to see on a resume that would make you stand out? So from our perspective, when we're looking at resumes, like, hey, is there some interest in food here? Is there some standout, engineering project? Like we're looking for standout things that we don't see in the hundreds of resumes we get. So let's say you're interested in, I don't know, pharmaceuticals. Like, are there clubs on campus that are somewhat pharmaceutical adjacent? Can you get a leadership role in that club? Are there volunteer organizations you could do and go out into, a medical something or other and volunteer and get experience in that way? These unique experiences, not every student's gonna have, but now you've got this experience or knowledge that you can leverage when you're trying to stand out amongst a lot of people. And hey, you in that experience, you might find out that, hey, this isn't really an industry I want to be a part of, and that's also great because now you can pivot. So just, yeah, find what you want to do and just surround yourself in that industry because you'll learn a lot.
Okay, if you have more questions, they have access to your LinkedIn profile.
All right. Yeah, you're happy to reach out, and I've talked with some other students that interested, and happy to set up a chat or just message me.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's thank Peter. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Go Gophers, right? Is that what y'all say, or
What's the tech thing? Rambler?
the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech?
Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I don't have much to share at this point. I want to make sure you guys have started your one-on-one interviews. We'll share that whenever that schedule says debriefing. that's when we'll start sharing. If you want me to connect you to certain people, feel free to reach out. I connected you with Julia, yeah?
I didn't read the mail yet.
Okay, all right. Who wanted to talk to, Zach, was it you who wanted to talk to Celia?
Yeah,
Okay, have I done that yet?
no,
Okay, remind me, Celia said yes, so
Okay,
I just
cool.
need to do the intro.
yeah, that'd be great.
I need to check the syllabus or the course calendar, but I think you said in the announcement we're doing that next week. Is that?
Is it March or February
Yes,
26th?
like I had to move some scheduling thing up. No, next week is Gregory Dibb, who is gonna zoom in from Silicon Valley. I met him, interestingly, I met him because I wanted to interview to be on his team. And he was such a kind person that I've stayed in contact. I never worked with him, but I just hung out with him because I like him from interviewing me. So he's in the automotive space. So he's done a lot of like self-driving cars and stuff. So he's gonna zoom in.
Does you work for Waymo?
No, he worked for Nissan for a while. I don't know where Automotive has been, but when I was interviewing with him, which was like a decade ago, I was gonna go into the Nissan research lab that they have in Silicon Valley. And I did not get the job. But my interviewer and I stayed friends. So I think he's coming next week. I forget, and I had to shift things down, shift timing around, because that's the only time he could make it. But is there anyone else who wanted me to connect you guys to anyone else?